Hello. So I guess we are live. Awesome. Oh, great. Okay, great. Thank you so much for coming live with me. This is supposed to be our Tuesday class. This is supposed to be our Tuesday class, but we are doing it on Wednesday. If you're here and you can see me, please let me know that you can see me. Let me know that you can see me. All right. So we are live. Let me know that you can see me. Let me know. I can see that we have two people watching. Okay. So today we are talking about how to help your children and stop fighting. Okay. How to help your children and stop fighting. Two people watching. Please let's see your comment and be sure that you were here. All right, great. I can see you. Awesome, amazing. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so um, I'm streaming live. Just tell me hello and where you are streaming live from. Tell me hello, and tell me where you're live. I'm streaming live from Bonny Island. Yes, I am currently on Bonny Island. Okay, and so that's why we couldn't have the stream yesterday, and we're here today. We're looking to connect. We're looking to connect on our Facebook group. Let me see. All right, so streaming from Port Harcourt. Hi, Faith. I can see Abiodu. I can see quite a number. I can see Chidima. Thank you so much for joining. We're just um, sending in messages so that people can join us. All right. Like I said, I'm currently in Bonny Island. I'm at the LNG RA community, and I came here to speak to parents. And yes, we are live. So let's see if we go live on our Facebook community as well, so that we can start rolling. Yay! We're live on our Facebook community. Facebook community. If you can see me, please let me know that you can see me, and do let me know that we are live. All right, just tell me where. Hi, Simi. Hi, Simi. How you doing? It's so good to have you here. Okay. Hi, Ella. Hi, Abiodo. So today we are looking at help my children. Right? Are always fighting. Um, I don't know if sorry about that. Sorry, so that we can connect on our Facebook community. Okay, so that we can. So while we're at it, please do let us know where you are joining from. Help my children are always fighting. So while we're waiting, can you tell us, do you have children, sibling rivalry? We're talking about sibling rivalry today again, and we're looking at how you can help your children, and also create a system where the children have are actually being helped. That's the word. I've heard quite a number of stories, and many of the times it starts from just leave them, their children, they're going to be fine. Okay, and from the leave them, their children. Hi, Facebook, we're live and we're discussing how to help your children resolve their differences, how to actually get your children not to keep fighting. And as you know, that I currently I'm launching a book in a few weeks that is called Resolving Sibling Rivalry. Sibling rivalry has been something that has actually given me quite a lot of thoughts, on my journey. It started even before I became a parent. I had always wondered why we have siblings who fight so much, and what really has caused it. Why are we here? How did we get here? And all the things that come with it. And that's actually the main reason why that book, Resolving Sibling Rivalry, is there. And if you're just joining me, my name is Wendy Ologe, and for today, I am streaming live from Bonny Island. I'm right at the LNNGRA, where I will be speaking to parents today and tomorrow as well. So just tell me where you are watching me from for people on Facebook, and just let's roll. So we are talking about, you know, excuse me, talking about helping children, bickering. Sibling bickering is what they do. They tease, they taunt, they fight, And many of the times, they can actually drive you crazy doing that. They wear you out. Hmm. They wear you out. Sometimes, you are hearing complaining. Is there anybody here who has never heard, mommy, he said to me, or daddy, they did this to me, and all of that? If you never hear those, conversations, please let me see your comment in the comment section. I don't know about you, but I have those, oh, this person did this person didn't do that, in my own home as well. So if you never heard it, congratulations. That's a whole lot. But beyond that, should we let it just slide? Now that's the question I am asking. Should we just let siblings just fight? Because according to us, they are going to fight anyway, and it's just going to fizzle out. Does it really, really fizzle out? Now that's the question, that we are asking today. Does it really fizzle out? And a lot of the times it does not, which is why we are having, relationships today, sibling relationships that are going down, the round. And the thing has even caused lots of other things, as it's not just sibling rivalry that we're talking about. So there's just so much about this topic that we need to actually begin to talk about. I realized that the conversations were not strong. Hi, Kuni. Thank you so much for joining me. Our conversation hasn't been strong on this topic. We've been, whether we should talk about it, whether we should not talk about it, we're not even sure, why we should talk about it and how. And, it's become, quite a big deal. It's become quite a thing because there's now a lot of struggle when it comes to, sibling rivalry. Now we are now adults. All of us have in the family either our father's siblings, our mom's siblings that they don't talk to because their parents didn't even see that rivalry, this thing is something you need to intentionally work on. Hi, Christabel. Intentionally work on. So come next year as well, actually going to be talking we're actually going to be talking about this a whole lot right in the inner circle in the academy, because we're going to be reading the book Resolving Sibling Rivalry. So that was what drove me to writing the book Resolving Sibling Rivalry, because I understand that it's a conversation we need to start, and we need to start now. Because if you look at a particular chapter of that book where I wrote about the monster, called sibling rivalry, and I put up stories from the past, stories in the present. I was able to go get stories from history. I was able to go get stories from the Bible. I was able to go get stories that we know. Adidas and Puma, for instance, and all the very popular sibling rivalry stories that we have in history today. And then we were also able to get stories that are happening now. So we got a lot of parents who shared. Some people shared anonymously, some people shared with their name, who shared and sent us emails to say, I want you to write about this, and I want people to learn that these things are real. We have shared a few of those stories on our social media handle, and a lot of people have been like, really? This actually gets to this point. Yes, sibling rivalry can become a monster if you do not sort it out as a parent. And it's been found that so many of these things that we're talking about, that parents all actually have a role, a very huge role that they play when it comes to sibling rivalry. Okay, and for those of us who have been asking me when we're doing the summit in Abuja summit is coming on in December. Is that 4th or 5th? Because we're actually working with those dates, so we already have a community for it. If you want to be part, then you want to just get in. All right. So when we talk about sibling rivalry, we find that that's what siblings do. Now, naturally, people are built, to disagree when people come into their spaces and all of that. However, if people do not have the skills on how to resolve whatever rivalry, whatever that comes their way, you will find out that these people struggle. They will struggle for the rest of their lives trying to resolve these things. I particularly saw sibling rivalry amongst my father's family. My father gave me permission to actually write the story in my book. And when I started to look through it, I realized that there were just issues that happened as kids that were not actually looked into. And today we're having to deal with people who don't know their cousins, who can't talk to their cousins, and many of us in our homes, our little homes, really have this same thing. This same thing is happening in our various homes as we speak. So it's not a one, it's not just about one family. When you look around, you're going to see how many families actually are having these issues, and it's become a big deal. And when I did my research, I found out that 80 to 90% of the times, parents fuel sibling rivalry intentionally or unintentionally. Many times we're doing what seems to be best. So I've often said that you can love your child and kill your child. Love is not enough. So it's not about love, really. It's actually about what you know. So a lot of the people who did and fueled sibling rivalry many of the times, they did out of ignorance. So the question is, what do you know on how to begin to resolve sibling rivalry? If you're here with me, let me see your comments in the comment section, and let me see that you have invited someone to join this conversation today. If you have invited someone, let me see your comment in the comment section. Let me see you tag someone. Let me see you share the link. This is a conversation that we need to open. We need to start. People have reached out to me to say, I cried when I read some parts of the book. Now, part of the things that I wrote in that book was, I know that this is going to open a lot of wounds, but hey, we need to begin to talk about it. Someone reached out to me and said she lost her husband on the altar of sibling rivalry. As in, he was actually killed physically, for a fight that was happening in the home. It was such a sad story. It was such a sad story. So the more we live it, the more it grows, it becomes a monster, and it becomes a terrible system. We don't want to continue in that way. We need to start the conversation. And if we're having this conversation and other people do not understand this conversation, then we're going to be stuck. We're going to be stuck, and we're going to be going round and round and round, the table. So one of the best things you can actually do is to get someone to join these conversations today. All right. So, you know, and many of the times these things happen in all our homes. All right. I didn't know, I didn't do it. You're a liar. All right. You hear things like, oh, he did it to me. Oh, you just never see it. Oh, I hate you. And you see all of these things happening. They seem harmless at the beginning. Sibling bickering can lead to destructive sibling rivalry, which includes verbal abuse and physical abuse. So many parents believe that children should resolve, should be left alone. All right, should be left alone. So you just say, just leave them. They are just children. They are just children. And when we say, oh, they are just children, they will get it eventually. They actually never get it. Eventually, we see people that are still struggling with all of this. What happened? Our parents didn't think that this was a skill, that conflict resolution was a skill that they needed to build intentionally. Okay? So many of the things that times I say, so what is a parent to do? Are you supposed to let your children keep fighting, or are you supposed to constantly intervene? I know that this is a struggle. That's one of the reasons why I wrote the book, Resolving Sibling Rivalry. What is the role of the parent? What role should we be playing? The truth is, all right, it's sibling rivalry. It happened to my siblings and I. It's God's intervention, honestly. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, ma. The truth is, it depends on the situation that is happening. The key thing is the parents knowing, being intentional about it. All right. So we have I've put together 6 ways to help you end constant bickering, to help you get sibling rivalry under control in your home. And I have actually been able to put this in the book, Resolving Sibling Rivalry. You want to actually get a copy, order your copy. All right, for the parents in the academy, of course, you know that we're reading it. So we're not just going to read it in the academy, we're reading and we're going to use the last chapter where we talked about the plan, and we're going to create a plan. Because I usually say that anything you do not plan intentionally for, when it comes, you don't know how to react to it. So many times these things happen and we don't have a reaction, and which is actually one of the biggest challenges that we have. YouTube community, can you see me? If you can see me, please let me know that you're still here with me. One of the very first thing that you need to do when it comes to sibling rivalry is that you need to set ground rules in your home. So how do you expect that people are treated? You can make a rule for family that no matter how stressful things get, everyone needs to treat everybody with respect. Now, I'm going to share one of the ground rules that we have as a family. One of the ground rules that we have as a family is the the angry person is the one that needs love the most. So it takes away aggression from the system that we build. So when people are angry, instead of us trying to bounce on them and trying to say, why are you angry? Why you are supposed to be angry? We actually share love instead. That has helped us in trying to put your sibling rivalry in check. So the person who is angry is the one that needs love the most. So when you're angry in my home, you see everybody actually coming to come and hug you. So at that point, you are a bit, at that point, you are a bit, like, oh, well, so you are calmer, you become calmer. So if there are ground rules that you can follow, it helps to actually put a lot of things in check. So when people see that you're beginning to get angry about a thing, they step away a bit, can understand that, okay, this person is dealing with something. So we need to get it that there's a skill to actually handle a lot of these things. So you can also make a rule that everyone gets treated with respect. It doesn't matter what is involved. No name calling, no hitting. In my home, it is no hitting. It doesn't exist. That's one of the reasons also we don't also hit, because if I'm hitting you and I'm telling you, oh, you can't hit your sibling, then I'm also holding myself to a standard that I cannot, holding you to a standard that I cannot hold myself to. So there are too many, things that we take for granted. Somebody said it's really serious not to be taken for granted. I need that book. Oh yes, it's never, we can't take it for granted, because relationships are not automatic. People do not build relationships because they are blood. People build relationships because they are actually cultivated. So the fact that somebody is your sibling does not automatically make that person have a relationship with you. There are many siblings who do not have any form of relationship at all. So relationships are built. Even parents. There are many parents who do not have relationships with their children. So it's just an obligation. So people are just obligated. That's the word. You know, obligated. Obligated to do things. I am obligated to do things for my parents. And that's how a lot of us are actually. Many of us grew up with that obligation mentality because there was no relationship actually built. And if there was no relationship built, so all we did was just, oh, well, now I've grown older. I know that I'm supposed to. The Bible says that we should honor our parents, and it's fine. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. Is an obligation, but there's no relationship. So you do it like it's work. Meanwhile, this is supposed to be a sweet relationship. All right. So instead of it being work, for it to have been, progressive, successful, we've now turned it to something that, oh, well, let me just do it. I just need to just do it. And all of the things that we do for it to have been, progressive, all right, successful. So for all of the things that, we do and, we have done and all of that. So one of the things that I say about sibling rivalry is make ground rules. When you are able to actually make these ground rules, it makes it a lot more easier for us to now begin to now do a lot of the other things. Okay, now that's one. Number two, and then let me also say this, please. It is okay to argue. You can also make that a rule, or you can call each other names. And that would also come from the examples that you give. So there are many times that we argue in the house, but you have a limit to what you can, say. You can't just, transcend from normal conversation. And I have also found that because we don't teach communication intentionally, our children go overboard. And we also have not learned to communicate properly. So when there's an argument, we attack the person. So our children naturally learn to attack the person. And then, of course, this keeps going round and round and round and round. And siblings are constantly, fighting over things that they should naturally shouldn't have fought, because there's a lacking, there's a skill lacking. I say that if we must resolve sibling rivalry, then we must teach our children skills. Number two, give your children space to work on their differences. Don't always, is a general rule of thumb when it comes to sibling rivalry. You would need to stay calm. You need to, don't be afraid of letting your children argue. It is fine that they argue, but you need to now teach them. Your job is to teach them how to resolve their conflicts on their own. Now, I say that resolving conflict, communication skills, and negotiation skills, these three things are key to what your child will need. They are key to what your child will need to be able to resolve conflicts on their own. Now, the problem is we let these children do whatever, but they don't have skills. So now that I'm saying, oh, you need to let your children, argue on their own and resolve it. If your children do not have the skills, they're going to fight and they're going to hit themselves, and can degenerate to things. So before you even begin to implement these things, the first thing you need to do is to teach your children the skills: communication skills, negotiation skills, conflict resolution skills, and how to create peace as a skill. I usually will say that peace, the ability to create peace, is a skill. You don't create peace in a vacuum. There's a skill to creating peace. And I usually like to use King Solomon to share that example. King Solomon understood the concept of creating peace as, a skill. Is a skill. So is there a peace plan? Is there a big conflict resolution plan? So until you are able to build these skills, when we say do not intervene, all right, until you are able to build these skills, you say we don't intervene, it will not make sense. So I'm just going to put you in a space where you are not you're now finding it all difficult, because your children will fight, break their heads, do things and all of that. Yet your children, your children are not able to do the things that they are supposed to do. So if you have a system in place, if you have put things in place that will help your children work at it, it makes it a lot more easier. But when you have not put things in place and you just say, no, I'm just going to allow them fight, they can injure themselves. So before you even begin to implement, please build these skills, please create these plans. In the last chapter of that book, I put out how you can create resolving sibling rivalry plan. That's the last chapter, and how you can actually put it and put it all together. So yes, peace is a skill. There's a skill to creating a peaceful environment. And if your children do not understand that skill, they're going to continually pick up. All right. So, and then, so if you get involved at all times, you're going to be at the center. Do not play judge. If the argument heats up and then it becomes vicious, then you can now take them, somewhere else, so that they they can you can now come in and say, okay, what can be done and all of that. But many of the times, what you need to do is to separate them, let them take time off, and then let them cool off, and then you start a conversation, with them. So teach them the skills before you start implementing what I'm saying. All right. The next thing that you need to do is that don't make sibling rivalry worse by taking sides. The moment you begin to take sides, so as parents, oftentimes without even being aware, we contribute to our children's feeling of jealousy and rivalry by taking sides. So to determine if this is happening, observe how you react to your child's typical dispute. For example, for a long time, something will happen. You are blaming your son. All right, you're blaming your son or something of that nature. So you blame your son for being the instigator of the conflict with your daughter. But many of the time, when you take a closer look, you might actually realize that you're not being fair. You're not being fair. So I had a I had an observation, myself, and I realized that as I was going, when there is a conflict, because our daughter would not be very um, out there to for you to know that, okay, the person that has started it and all of that, or she might even just start it and you will not know. All right. um and then you would now begin to realize that there's no conflict really that happens without two people. So I had to, begin to learn how it's done. Right. So whenever two people have dispute, right, you find out that maybe one person will be willing to argue. So for us, our son was always willing to argue, while the other person is not willing to argue, maybe is quiet, will pull back, or maybe disengage. So while maybe one person is avoiding conflict, the other person tries to confront the conflict. So you will find out that you begin to actually blame the person that confronts the conflict, because he's the one making noise and he's the one talking most. So your child can actually look at it and say you are always siding this person. So apparently, because this person is the talker and tries to engage while the person isn't engaging. One of the best things you can do is to try to be impartial. Don't take sides and don't assume you ever know the whole story. Don't ever assume you know the whole story. If you do, even if you do, assume in your head that you don't. Because when you do that, you will tend to favor one child and you will increase rivalry between your two children. Very important. Are we following? Are we getting value from this session? If you're following and getting value from this session, let me see you share your best emojis. You can share the fire emojis as it is with the academy, right? We love the fire emojis. If you are getting value from this conversation, let me see you share your best emoji and let me see you tag a friend. All right. Um, my daughter, my oldest daughter, and my son fights daily. And I found out that I just keep blaming my daughter, but my son is the one looking for trouble. So because we have that thing that I said, where you are going to naturally begin to blame the person who is more vocal than the person who is quiet. Are you getting value from this session? Let me see your comment in the comment section. Did you share this with a friend, a family? Did you tell them about this live stream so that we can get more people in and more people listening to this conversation? Did you tell them that this conversation is valid? All right. If you're getting value, let me see you share your best emojis. There's a lot to talk about on sibling rivalry. Honestly, there is so much, and we're going to help. We're going to try and keep talking about it. All right. And what part of what I'm sharing with you here, I've shared in the book. All right. And you need to actually get a copy of that book, because if we're going to fight this, then we need knowledge to actually be able to fight it. Then number 4, you need to teach your children. So that was an observation. I said, do not be impartial. Don't take sides. All right. Don't assume that you know the whole story. If you do, you will tend to favor one child and you increase rivalry. So even if you know the whole story, shut your head and behave like you don't. All right. Number 4, teach your children how to resolve conflict. So in that book, I was actually able to dedicate a whole session to conflict resolution. In calm moments, you need to teach them how to resolve conflict, how to approach on each other. Many of the times what I see about sibling rivalry is that they end up not being able to resolve their conflict because they lack the skill to actually be able to do that. They lack the skill to actually be able to do that. And when a child lacks a skill, there's nothing you can do. You can't fight it. Okay? You can't fight it. So you need to teach the skills into the child. Remember that I keep saying that skills are not beaten into a child, that skills are learned. Somebody help me write that. Skills are not beaten into a child, skills are learned. If your child keep fighting and can't resolve their conflict, it shows you one thing: your child does not have the ability to resolve their conflict. So your child lacks the capacity to do it. So no matter how much you beat the child is never going to be able to resolve their conflict. So does that tell you something? So if the child can't resolve their conflict, how do you now, beat a child for not knowing? So it's just like you want a child to fly a plane. You took a child to the plane, all right? You took a child to the airport and say, enter into the, I heard Bishop Oyedebo share that analogy, was actually very, interesting. And you say, you tell the child, I will beat you until you fly this plane. No matter how much you beat a child at that spot, because the child do not have the skill to fly a plane. Can the child fly a plane? No. You don't beat skills into a child. Skills are learned. You teach it. You teach skills. You don't beat a child to imbibe a skill. No, you don't. So when your children fight and you beat them, and you scream, beat them, they do not know how to communicate. They do not know how to negotiate. They do not know how to resolve conflict. So when you're done beating them, they still lack the skills. How are they going to ever be able to resolve their conflicts on their own? And then when they become adults, they lack the skill. They continue with it. For every time they fight, the same thing surfaces and they're not able to actually deal with it. So these are valid questions that we need to begin to ask. And we need to begin to actually review what exactly we're doing on our parenting journey. All right. So if we keep saying, no, the child, they were making noise and I beat the both of them, you haven't solved no problem. You have only told them that aggression is the way to go. This morning, I was taking a walk with the parents in the inner circle who live inside the LLNGRA, and we took a walk with them and we had a conversation. And I said to them that aggression is a learned behavior. You learn it. You become aggressive. They were like, oh, coach, you just talk about these things like, so easy and all of that. As I said, so aggression is learned. You learn how to become aggressive. So when when your child does something and your child lacks the skill, you match the child with aggression. The child learns that how I can solve my problem is to match it with aggression. The child grows and becomes aggressive to everything that comes to him. And then the child is just aggressive for things. So the child is never going to be, to a point where they are actually now learning. So after you beat the child, they go and stay quiet. Have you ever thought, has that really stopped sibling rivalry? Tomorrow, they stand up and they start again. It's only a madman that does something over and again that is not working and just believes that, oh yes, it's working. So you need to sit back and now say, why do I finish this? And when they fight, it's the same pattern. And then you actually now beat again. Same pattern. Same thing. I have to do the same thing for my children tomorrow, next tomorrow. They fight almost every day. You beat them almost every day. So how has that solved the problem? That's the question. How has that solved the problem? Okay, so it's very important. The next thing that you must do is that you must. So the conflict resolution time will not even permit me to now put you through all the line. But in that book, I have put the whole plan, how you can create a conflict resolution, system. In the inner circle this year, we had, a sketchy conversation on it and all of that. But next year, we're going to be looking at it holistically, how we can put, plan on conflict together. I said something at the beginning of this session that I watched my own father and his siblings not able to resolve their conflict till today. And conflicts come up, they go off, everybody's aggressive, everybody just shouts, and there's no communication achieved, there's no negotiation, there's no conflict resolution, conflict continues. So when we say that the children are going to become okay, no, they never become okay. I have seen it over and again. Generations and generations to come, they actually never become okay. It just continues. The last one, you don't compare your children, you need to embrace each child individually. But before you actually are able to do that, you need to understand who your child is. Because if you do not understand who your child is, you can't actually treat them on an individual to individual basis. So we need to begin to look at different things and now ask ourselves, does my child have the capacity to actually be able to do the things that I'm asking them to do? Now, many times I see parents saying, oh, my child cannot read, they're not reading. Oh, they don't like reading. Does your child have the skill, the study skill that we're talking about? Have you been able to build it for your child? No, your child doesn't have it, so your child can't. Not that your child doesn't want. They're two different things. Your child does not have the capacity to deliver on it. So your children are fighting every day. Not that they don't want to stop fighting. Not that there's ever going to be a time when they stop disagreeing. There's going to be disagreement all the time. But it's getting worse because they don't have a skill, the capacity on what to do, how to resolve conflicts on their own. So they're going to keep coming to you. Mommy, they did this to me. Mommy, and I don't know about it, those things can wear you out. Mommy, they did this to me. Mommy, they do that to me. So why don't you think that if you teach your children how to resolve these conflicts on their own, wouldn't they now begin to now look at this system, all right? Look at this whole conflict system and say, okay, we're having an issue. That's one of the things I've been able to touch the twins. We're having an issue, and no mother or father is going to come and help us. So by the time we're teaching them all of this, and we let them practice it as well. So sometimes they're actually having an issue, and my husband and I are just watching. Sometimes we actually have the remote in our hand and we block our ears. It takes a lot of emotional, build up capacity to actually also be able to be there. There's a lot involved in trying to raise, children who are actually skillful. I said this morning to the parents that I was working with in Bonnie here, right here where I am. I said to them that it is a terrible place to be, raising children who are not skillful. Very terrible place where you don't want to be there. So the first thing that parenting is actually about raising skilled children. Children who are unskilled tires you out. You're parenting them, you're struggling because there's no skill. That's why you say things like, oh, my children are always shouting, I don't want there to be a holiday. Parents are afraid of holidays. Parents are afraid of holidays because they don't even know who their children is. They don't even understand the reaction. They don't even know what they need to do. I remember when we launched the holiday bundle like this last holiday, and many parents reached out to me and said, this is the first time I'm actually ever enjoying a holiday, long holiday with my children. So you can't keep running away from these things and trying to escape these things, all right. Hi, Asa. If you can't keep running away from them, we need to deal with it. We need to deal with it. How do we begin to deal with it? We need to get to the place of knowledge. There is no other way. The conversation is not, there's no way. There's no way, right? It's important that we actually get to a point where we are looking at all of the issues that we're having in our parenting journey and intentionally building a system that can help our journey. Are we building a perfect system? No. We're building a process that is accountable, and that we can also, say, okay, we have something that we are doing. So we're not. It's not intentional parenting. Is not about perfection. It's about the journey. So we're not teaching perfection. We're teaching that there is a better way. There's a way to do it. And that even in the process, when something happens, parenting is in the process, is in the mess. When there is a mess, you're able to clean up the mess, look at it, and turn it to something positive and keep moving. I'm sure you must have heard me say that parenting is in the mess. If you're not ready to do the mess, you're not ready to parent. If you're constantly, trying to avoid the mess, you're constantly trying to run away from the mess, then you will make a mess eventually of it. I usually would say that if you don't do the time now, you do the time later. Either way, you do the time. It doesn't matter how far it is, that you go, right? So I'm going to take questions. And by the way, the book Resolving Sibling Rivalry is still on pre-order. All right. The launch date is on the 5th of December. It's going to be out and we'll be able to pick them up. But after pre-order ends on the 4th. After pre-order, you will get it instead of 3,500, you'll be getting it at 4,500 instead. Okay, so you would need to make get your copy, all right? For those of us who have been still asking me for the inner circle details, the inner circle starts on the 1st, well, that's for level 1 on the 1st of December, all right? There's a on the 1st of December, that's when the inner circles for 2022 starts. And I tell you, it is a ship you want to actually jump on, is a train you want to be on in this time. Raising a child in the 21st century is madness, okay? And people are now standing up, communities are standing up to take this thing wholly, organizations. I told you I'm in Bonnie right now, and what we're doing is to teach parenting. Organizations are standing up. I'm at the LNG array, and organizations are standing up and saying, what can we do to make our parenting journey better? And they are looking out, scouting for experts to help them through the process. And if you have this kind of access, I tell you, it's going to really help your journey. So if you want to join us for the inner circle, we have 3 batches full as I talk to you today. And by the time we woke up and said that we were closing down on the 3rd batch, we saw another 30 parents who had made payment to be in the batch, and we had to just do the batch D, and then that will be all, because registration stops in few days. All right. So the batch D ones were done, and that will be it for 2022. So you would need to wait for 2023. Remember, while you wait, that every second counts. Your child is growing every minute. Growth is noiseless. Change is noiseless. You do not hear a thing when there is a change. It just happens. It just happens. That's why you can wake up one day and see that your child that you gave birth to some years back is now a teenager, and you are in shock. I now have a teenager. Are you kidding? And this teenager cannot cook. This teenager cannot sweep. This teenager cannot do anything. This teenager cannot move on their own. And you begin to now realize, I have actually done nothing, because you think that time was waiting. The children are not going to be there forever. Trust me. A time will come. I tell the parents in the inner circle, a time will come when you want to do the connection to at a certain age. They're like, so because if you haven't built that particular, system and leverage, it becomes difficult for you to now do it when they are older. Remember what I said earlier? Let's not parent as obligation. Let us parent as relationship. It's beyond an obligation. You want a situation whereby you are an anchor, you are a coach to even your children. All right, not just the parents, okay? Where you can be everything. And as your children are growing, your role in their life begins to move. The role begins to shift. That shifting of role is where the issues actually really begin to come in. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me today. If you have questions, please put them in the comment section, answer the questions, and then as we begin to round off, all right, for this session. All right, if you want a copy of Resolving Sibling Rivalry, just put in the comment section sibling rivalry. I am sure if you're on YouTube, please check our Telegram community, all right, or check link on the description so that you can get a copy. It is 3,500 naira now at pre-order. We already have over 100 pre-orders, all right, and I'm sure that by the time we're doing launch, we usually have 1,000 pre-orders on books when we're launching, all right. I'm sure we're going to have much more than that. So if you do not need the first 1,000, of course, you would have to wait. We will now do a reprint, all right? So just put in the comment section sibling rivalry, and you would get a response on how you would get a copy book, pre-order your copy now. You would pick up in our pickup stations all over the country. However, if you're outside of Nigeria, please just wait a while. By next week, we're going to have all of these books, Resolving Sibling Rivalry and Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro, right on Amazon. All right. So Sex Educate Your Child Like a Pro is one of my books that just is also coming out. All right. It is very important that you put all of that. All right. Precious, if you can help us also share. I don't know if you've been able to, so that we can also have that right in the comment section. Resolving sibling rivalry. If you follow us on social media, you're going to see where you're going to put that down. So just put sibling rivalry in the comment section and you have a response on how you can pre-order your copy. And if you want to join the inner circle, all you need to do is put in the comment section inner circle, and you also be given details on how you can join the inner circle. If you're watching me on YouTube, to join the inner circle, you see a slide, right on the screen, that way you can actually send in the details, all right? Because I don't think it allows us to share a link in the comment, okay? So that's what you would need to do. So if you are somebody, I think I have a question. How do you handle a 7-year-old who is disrespectful? There's a lot to that conversation. Okay, there's a lot to that conversation. 7-year-old who is disrespectful, and when you're talking about disrespectful, what exactly is in context? I need to understand exactly what it is that you're talking about. So it's difficult for me today. Somebody said to me that she has never seen any video where I said this is how to discipline a child, and I said to the person, actually, there's a lot. All right. Hey, Uncle Ben, there's a lot to discipline than just saying this is how. So if you're going to consider disciplining a child, there's a lot to consider. All right. Number one is, who is that child? How does that child learn? Because discipline is teaching, you want to understand how the child learns. So if you're going to make discipline meaningful, you need to understand that if you're going to teach it, then I need to teach you how you will learn it. So if you understand how your child learns, it makes it very easy. That's number one. Number two, you need to understand your child's love language, because you need to also understand that discipline should, transcend to love. It's not okay, I can see that. It's not a hate system. Don't discipline like you hate your child. All right. So that is also one of the things that you must look out for. Then the circumstances surrounding whatever it is that happened, right? It's also another thing that you would consider. Your temperament and how you manage situations, your value system in your family, and how things are seen. All right. So your value system would also help me to say, this is um the what I would need. Okay, this is what I need, is actually the value system. That's one of the things that will help us. All right, Precious, I can see you. Thank you. All right, so how do I go about trying to get my daughter to stop the habit I do like? Is that example, like sucking her mouth and bringing out her tongue and all of that? Don't fight it. Reinforce positively. Positive reinforcement actually works better than negative reinforcement, and we need to actually begin to look at it from that angle. So every time where your child does something, look at how you can praise. We were not taught to praise. I shared a post 2 days ago. We were not taught to praise. Praising people is a problem. Even when people praise you, you were taught to say things like, forget that thing, is it not this suffer we're all suffering? And then when someone is praising you, somewhere in your head you're thinking, all this thing that they're saying, are you really sure? So we're not raised to be praised. We're not raised to be complimented. We're not. Our parents raised us in such a way that every time all that was found were the faults. So there was a lot of criticism. So there was a lot of negative reinforcement. There was a lot of, oh, you did this, you did, So every time when someone even tries to be nice, we don't even know how people should be nice to us. We suspect people being nice to us. When someone is trying to give you a gift, you're like, what does this person even want? It's our upbringing. These are some of the things that we must deal with, and some of the things that we keep talking about. Well, because right in the inner circle as well. Thank you for this session. Two of my daughters always quarrel and report to each other. It's getting too much that my first daughter is always frowning and complaining about her younger sister. How do I intervene? You don't need to intervene. And I'm sure that if you listen to me, Madam Chinyere, I said you need to teach them skills. They lack the skills to be able to resolve their conflict on their own. You need to teach them how to resolve their conflict on their own. That's where to start from. So don't look at how you can intervene in the situations. Look at how you can teach them skills to help them to resolve their issues. So that's the plan that you need. Get the book Resolving Sibling Rivalry. I shared a lot about what I'm talking about there. How do I handle a child 10-year-old that always complains and bears grudges all the time? Why not find out why this 10-year-old complains and bears grudges? So we look at children like they are not human beings, but they are. So nothing is actually done in isolation, really. There is something happening. It is that thing that is happening, beneath it. That's what I need you to understand that you need to deal with. Okay, so it's important that you deal with. So look at misbehaviors like an iceberg theory. The iceberg theory says that what you see, is actually smaller compared to what it is that is beneath. That's how I want you to look at misbehaviors. And when you do, it helps you to understand that there's something causing this thing that is happening under this whole conversation. So I want you to begin to take it from there, and I am sure that that will help you a whole lot. Okay, so that would really, really, really help you. So if you want a copy of Resolving Sibling Rivalry, all you need to do is to put sibling rivalry in the comment, and you will get details on how you can make payment. Is 3,500 per order. After the launch, you get to pay 4,500. All right. I've been writing this book for the past 2 years, and somehow, I knew that it was time for us to have these conversations, and we're going to really dive into this conversation because it's valid in this time, and it's something that we need to sit at and deal with. All right. So if your child is having anything that's happening to the child, please look beyond what the child is doing and understand why. Why is the child? I have seen a situation where a parent had complained about a child. The child is always doing this. The child is always bickering. The child is always doing that and all of that. It happened that that child was being abused by the dad's younger brother right in the home. And the child was doing all of these things to show that things were not okay. But yet nobody could pick it. By the time we came in and intervened, we found out that there was actually more. There's always more. There's always more. People do not misbehave in a vacuum. There's always more. All right. Somebody's asking, how can I join the inner circle? Just put inner circle in the comment section. We would reach out to you to tell you how you can join the inner circle. Okay. So the inner circle starts on the 1st of December for this 2022 cohort. And as soon as we are done for 22 cohort, the next one is 2023. And like I said, your children are not really going to continue to wait, on it. So one of the things that you would need to understand about, about all of the things that we're talking about is that there's work. There's work to be done. So there's work to be done on different areas on parenting. A parent reached out to me yesterday and said to me that I listened to you on YouTube. Our YouTube, we call it the parenting Netflix. I listened to you on YouTube, and I'm like, what's happening to me is as if time has gone and all of that. Because time is going daily, which is why we are talking daily, where we're continually we're saying, take this thing seriously. Like I said earlier, I like that there's a move, churches are standing up to say we need to do more. Organizations are starting up. I told you that currently I'm at the LNNG, camp in Bonnie. Organizations are standing up to do things. They realize that the family system, once it's broken down, every other thing breaks down. So we need to actually get this thing. I know, yes, we are all busy. We all want to do things, certain way and all of that. But beyond that, there's actually a lot much more. There's actually a lot much more. And it is the children, that we're talking about. So I usually say that on the altar of ignorance, I find that we are constantly crucifying our children. We are sacrificing them on the altar of ignorance. And things are not nothing's going to really end up changing and all of that. I can't wait to have the book. Hi, Evangel Charles Okoye. Yes, I know I'm going to talk to you today. And so that's about that. So when we're saying, oh, you need to do this, you need to join the academy, we need to, it is so that you can do the time. Like I said earlier in this conversation, you must do the time. If you don't do the time now, you do the time later. Either way, you do the time, right? So this is me signing out today as I go and prepare to be on stage later on in the day. So if you're in Bonnie, this first day is happening outside of the RA community, so you can access it. I think one of the Redeemed churches, you can reach out and we can send you details. And if you are also within the array, of course, for the one happening tomorrow is restricted just for the LLNG, just for the LLNG system. Okay, so thank you so much, everybody, for joining me today. I hope it was an hour well spent. Excuse me. I hope it was an hour well spent of your time. I am always very honored and glad that you have, that you join me here. It's usually Tuesdays, every 2 p.m. Tuesdays, or here on Wednesday. Yesterday I was on transit. I've decided to move today. Thank you so much and see you again next week. And have an amazing day. If you're in Abuja, wait for it. The TIP annual conference is coming. All right, on the 5th of December. Please ask for the link so that you can join. Thank you for being here live and have an amazing day.